But I did tell like a few friends, and then they did come visit, but I still felt embarrassed. I felt embarrassed that they had to push me in a wheelchair to go look at stuff. I felt, yeah, ashamed that they had to do these things for me. I just felt like everyone was staring at me if I left my room, even though I was at the rehab or at the hospital.
Where everyone
was
was in a similar situation as you.
This is the Recovery After Stroke podcast with Bill Gassiamis, helping you navigate recovery after stroke.
Hello and welcome to episode 222 of the Recovery After Stroke podcast. To learn more about my guests, including links to their social media and other pages, and to download a full transcript of the entire interview, please go to recoveryafterstroke.com/episodes. If you would like to support this podcast, the best way to do that is to leave the show a 5-star review and a few words about what the show means to you on iTunes and Spotify. And if you are watching on YouTube, comment below the video. Like this episode, and to get notifications of future episodes, subscribe to the show and hit the notifications bell. Now, sharing the show with family and friends on social media will make it possible for people who may need this type of content to find it easier, and that may make a massive difference to someone that is on the road to recovery after their own experience with stroke. So please do share. Now, my guest today is Anita Hsieh, who was only 24 when she experienced a cryptogenic ischemic stroke that she is still recovering from 5 years on and continues to make positive progress. Anita Hsieh, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you for being here and making the time to reach out and become involved and be my guest. Tell me a little bit about what happened to you.
So with me, I had my stroke 5 years ago when I was 24. So it was totally unexpected. I didn't even know what a stroke was. To be honest, I didn't really think about my health that much. I didn't even know the stroke signs or anything. Like, it never crossed my mind as a 24-year-old girl. Like, I was just doing my own thing, finishing off university, getting into just applying for jobs and like going into the adult world. I didn't expect myself to be hospitalized with a stroke.
I can imagine. What was life like? What were you up to? What were you doing? How were you keeping yourself busy at that age?
To be honest, I don't really think about it. Like, I was just busy. I was busy with school. I studied in accounting, so I was starting to do my CPA, so my Certified Public Accounting Designation. So I was pretty much very busy with studying and just being a 24-year-old, going out, having fun, just doing that thing. I didn't really think about my health. I go to my annual physicals and everything is fine. And I didn't show any physical signs of being in distress or I was sick. I looked normal. I felt normal. And I just did my own thing and it just happened.
And you had an ischemic stroke. Do you know what the cause of it was? Did they work that out?
To be honest, they still, to this day, don't really know, which is, in the beginning, I was very frustrated to not know what the reason was. If I knew, I could at least prevent it or work on trying to, be better in that part of my health. But they said that if they still can't figure it out, it just could be a spontaneous occurrence. It just happened that I got a blood clot, and I had a stroke at 24. They're trying to rule out a lot of things, and till this day, they still don't know. And it's been 5 years, so yeah.
I've heard for a lot of women that I've also interviewed who have had a stroke, often they are taking the prescription birth control pill.
Yes,
Was that something in
that one.
your?
No, they
Yeah.
even asked me that too, and I wasn't at that time either, so I don't know. Maybe it's just my own hormones. I have no idea.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there wasn't a hole in the heart. They checked all of that stuff. They ruled everything out. And now you're in hospital. How did you end up in hospital? What did you notice was happening to you before you actually had to go to hospital?
I was thankfully at home. Um, to be honest, even at home when I was feeling all these symptoms, I didn't know I was having a stroke. I just thought like, what is happening to my body? So actually the morning of my stroke, I had this pain like on the side of my like neck, shoulder, and I was like, okay, maybe I just pulled the muscle or something. And I didn't think about it. I just thought, yeah, it's just a little pain because I did go to dance class that day. Actually, I go weekly dance class, and then at the night of, it just started happening. Like my ears started ringing, and everything just my head was spinning, and I just couldn't speak anymore. I just felt like my whole world was like changed. And at that time, my my ex boyfriend was actually there in the house. So I was very lucky because no one was in the house. And then I just said, there's something wrong with me. Please call my mom. I didn't even think to call the ambulance or the hospital. I said, please call my mom. That's my initial thought. But he called the hospital, and the ambulance came and they did the whole check while I was still like semi unconscious. And then, yeah, they took me to the hospital. And at that point, I thought in the ambulance I was going to die at 24. I was very scared. I was like, what is happening to me? This is my first time being in an ambulance. Nothing ever has happened to me. It's not like I broke a leg or anything. I just, yeah, something weird is happening to my body. And I was like, I can't die right now. I'm only 24. I just finished schooling. I still have a lot to do in my life. And I was really scared. And I was really scared to close my eyes, thinking that if I do close my eyes, like I won't wake up. So that happened all the way to the hospital. And then at that time, yeah, once I was in the hospital, all the doctors did what they had to do. But I was unconscious at that time. Yeah.
Wow. Pretty dramatic. And when you woke from being unconscious and you came around, what deficits were you left with that you had to deal with and overcome?
So I actually couldn't walk, and it was interesting because it affected my cerebellum. So I had deficits on both sides, but they're very different. Like I couldn't feel my left side, but my right side was the one where I had like spasms, and that like I couldn't walk, and I had double vision, and I had like short-term memory. I couldn't really speak. I had a little bit of aphasia, and all those things like I just didn't expect to happen. I was like, what happened to me? Like I couldn't even get out of the bed. Like I couldn't even go to the bathroom, to the toilet. And I was just like, what happened? And I didn't even know when I woke up that I had a stroke until my mom eventually told me. I was still in quite a shock. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. It's traumatic for anybody. And then when you're completely oblivious to being unhealthy, when you're young and you're fresh and you feel like you're healthy and everything's going okay, and then all of a sudden you're not, it's definitely going to be a big shock to the system, and it's going to challenge every thought, every idea that you ever had about yourself up until that point in time. It just changes everything. I mean, it did that for me at 37. I can't say I was feeling the healthiest, but I certainly wasn't feeling unwell or like I wasn't capable of operating efficiently or being, you know, physically capable of doing all the tasks that I needed to do.
Mm-hmm.
When you couldn't feel that stuff, are you thinking about the future at all? Are you just taking it day by day? How do you manage that time in your head? How do you kind of come to
Uh,
terms with your thoughts?
yeah, so I wasn't even thinking. I thought that it was like a regular cold. I was just gonna get back right into it. And next day I'll just be discharged and go do my own thing again. That didn't happen. I was just leading to my, optimism, but yeah, that was not the case. And for me, for the first part of things, I didn't really think that much. I felt like my sole focus was to walk again. Like I just really focused on my physical aspect. But once, and I think because the doctors were saying, because I'm young, I have a young brain, not saying that other people, like it will be faster in recovery because of I'm young, but still they don't really see young stroke patients. Like I was so young compared to all the stroke patients in the hospital. It was like I felt hard. It was hard to relate in general. I was just in my room. I didn't talk to anyone. I was just like on myself because I don't know what to expect. But once I started, like just even being in a walker, like walking assisted, that's when it took me a while, like a few months to really wrap everything around my head. I didn't want to tell anyone and I wasn't ready to tell everyone. So basically, I just was in denial, I guess, and for a bit until I sat down and because I'm very thankful. I had a whole team working with me in the rehab center, and that included like a therapist, and they really worked through that mental part of me because I just couldn't wrap it around my head this whole time. I felt like I was just stuck in this like dream world that does not occur, but it did. And every day it was going by.
You know you
Yeah.
know the part where you didn't tell anybody. Is there any shame linked into that? Is that perhaps some cultural shame, etc.? Because I know that
Yeah.
some of my relatives wouldn't know if they were well or unwell. Whereas I talk about everything and everybody knows everything about me. But some people keep all that stuff to themselves, and then it's a real shock when you find out, 3, 4, whatever months later, and it's like, why didn't you tell me? I could have helped. I would have loved to have been able to help you or make your burden, ease your burden a little bit. Did you guys have that in
Yeah.
your family a little?
Yeah. Culturally, I would definitely felt ashamed and embarrassed being that my age and yeah, cultural background, like you wouldn't expect a 20 something year old to be in this situation and not healthy. Like, what did I do? Like, I must be really unhealthy to have a stroke happen to me. And yeah, I didn't want to tell any of my family members. Like, only my immediate family knows. So, my parents and my sister, to be honest. And I couldn't even tell my friends because even my friends think that, oh, okay, like, you're going to be better soon, kind of thing. No one really knew stroke recovery and how the processes or anything. We're just in our 20s, just having fun and doing our own thing, right? At that time is not the time where we think about our health, which definitely took for granted. But at that time, I don't think I would like to think about my health either. I just wanted to do my own thing. Yeah, so culturally, for sure, I definitely even it took me about like a I would say like half a year to be able to really open up and talk about my stroke actually. Yeah.
Would, in hindsight, and maybe this you've never thought about it before, but would it have been nice to have some friends come to visit you while you're spending all this time in hospital and in rehab?
Yeah, actually, I did, not that I think about it, I did tell like a few friends, and then they did come visit, but I still felt embarrassed. I felt embarrassed that they had to push me in a wheelchair to go look at stuff. I felt, yeah, ashamed that they had to do these things for me. I just felt like everyone was staring at me if I left my room,
Mm.
even though I was at the rehab or at the hospital.
Where
And I
everyone
was a
was in a
patient.
similar situation as you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Looking back now and knowing what you know now and having had 5 years of personal development and growth and wisdom, do you
Mm-hmm.
see that time as perhaps a time where you wouldn't repeat some of those things that you did or didn't do? And would you perhaps feel better about sharing about a difficult time in your life rather than feeling embarrassed about a difficult time in your life?
Yeah, I would definitely. 5 years ago, I hated my life. I was just so frustrated. Like, I'm like, why is this? And now I'm like, that was a blessing in disguise, to be honest. I've learned a lot about myself over the 5 years that I wouldn't have. Like, it definitely did suck having a stroke. I would want to wish anyone that, and to be that young and to learn a lot, that was great. I got to work on myself. And to be honest, I wish I shared it earlier because it was actually very um, recent that one of my coworkers, she was 21 and she just recently had a stroke too. And I realized that she was going through the same thing as me and she felt alone. And I realized that if I could share that even before then, too, like she said, it helped a lot. So yeah, definitely, that's what I would have changed. Like I would have been more open of about my stroke. Yeah.
And possibly helped some other people going through a
Mm-hmm.
similar difficult
Yeah.
time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, makes sense. So it sounds like you've had a shift in your mindset in the way that you go about thinking about things, and
Mm-hmm.
sounds like you've let go some of your old beliefs which were not serving you as a 24-year-old stroke survivor. Maybe they were serving you up until that point in time, but as a stroke survivor, it sounds like you needed to dramatically change your perspective and the way you thought about things.
Yeah. Like I said, that it was a blessing in disguise. So
Yeah.
culturally, there's a lot of I come from an Asian background where school is very important, studies, everything in general is just very like, you gotta be like a straight A student, you have to do this and that. Like, it's just the expectations. I had a lot of expectations on myself too, like to hold myself to that level. And I didn't really think about it. I just thought this is what my life is supposed to be, do well in school, get a really good job, have a family, have kids, like the typical whatever society is. And then with my stroke, like 180, it was just so different. And like you said, like the perspective, like my mindset changed so much. I just kind of opened up. I found myself even more on how different I was and how I want to be different. Like I no longer want to conform into that. Like it didn't matter in
Yeah.
that sense. Like, yeah, I don't have to be a straight A student or, go for the top of whatever career I need to do and find like, yeah, like I could just do things the way I want to because I guess I did think that I was gonna die. So I felt like a lot of regrets came too. Like I felt like I thought of a lot of regrets if I don't do it now. Like I'm not gonna wait until I'm 80 and think about it again and be like, I have another chance. So I might as well just start now at 24, where I have plenty of years to really do what I kind of want to do.
That's profound shift in mindset. I love that. So, your parents, perhaps they did have some expectations of you and they were letting you know that you need to perform well academically and all that kind of stuff. But I imagine when you became unwell, they would have known people that have had a stroke before because they're older and they've been around on the planet more than you. And they would have definitely come across somebody that had a stroke. So when their daughter has a stroke, how did they respond? Like, did they surprise you with how they responded? Did you feel like you had saw a different side of them?
So definitely like the 4 stages of grief. Like my mom was definitely like my parents were definitely in like denial first, and then they were angry. It's like, why did this happen? No one detected, and then like the whole acceptance. But they took care of me. My mom was like my primary caregiver. She had to do everything for me. She didn't work and she was at home, like bathed me, feed me, did everything for me. And I really appreciate that part. She just stopped everything, and it just reminded me how when I felt on that day, I wanted to call my mom. Like, even though they have these expectations, I still wanted my mom because I knew my mom was going to protect me, take care of me. And yes, definitely they also shifted. They also learned and grew with me in that sense of that cultural expectations. And we live in Canada, so like that's one good thing is there's a bit of like both Western and Eastern
mixing
mindsets. Yeah, so it was a bit easier. And then they were with me through a lot of things, the rehab and being with me. So they saw a lot too. So it was the first time seeing it as a caregiver. And it also must be difficult for them to take care of me too, because like they thought that like they were done taking care of their kids, but now they're back again, taking care of me and feeding me and doing everything. And yeah,
that's definitely a blessing when you've got somebody that can step in. I was 37 and my mum did exactly the same thing. They were all over us like a rash, and we were completely and totally supported, and we were lucky like that. I'm very thankful for that time. And my dad drove me around because I wasn't allowed to drive, and even though I didn't like the way he drives, and it was annoying, it was still good to have a taxi driver on speed dial.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they drove me around, even though I got really nauseous when they drive because of my double visions. But I'm thankful for like my parents, even my sister, like for her to go through something like that. I have a younger sister to see me like that too, which is it probably impacted them a lot too. But yeah, I'm very grateful I had them to take care of me and be there for me during that time too.
Yeah. So 5 years on, are you still dealing with double vision and some of your deficits? What have you overcome?
So thankfully my double vision went away. I just did my eyes check with the optometrist. Everything was fine. I could drive again and all this stuff. So so I was very lucky. I could walk again. I could do most of my mundane things. The only thing is my right hand is my dominant hand. I still have a bit of spasm. So it's harder for me to write and really just do things like mentally too, like think faster and all those things. Especially when I am low on energy, my deficits will show. Like my leg will start giving up. I'll start limping more, and my right leg will fail on me. But my left side, I could feel everything now, except for a little bit of the feeling is a bit different in my calves. But other than that, I'm very grateful that most of my deficits are pretty much like recovered. So I'm
Yeah.
thankful for that. Yeah.
That's fabulous. So you were in hospital for about, was it 6 months in rehabilitation and all of that? How long?
Yeah, around like that. I don't even remember. I just felt like it was a very long time. Probably, yeah, 6 months time. And then I was outpatient, so I just had to continue my rehab outside so I could be at home to just go to the appointments. Yeah.
Yeah. And how
For a
long
bit.
before you ended up becoming mobile again, where you gained some of your independence back and you were able to, drive again and leave the house without supervision? How long did it take to get to that?
I would say around the 1 year mark, I could walk. It's just I had a cane. That was, and then got assisted walking. So like I needed someone to hold, like I could still walk slowly. And driving wise, that took the longest. They took away my driver's license until I could pass my um, optometrist test. I guess they have a test for these things, and they wanted to ensure that I'm very like 100% like ready to do it. So that took a while, and the first few times I drove, it was not fun. It was interesting feeling. I had a lot of panic attacks. I just, yeah, it was a bit overwhelming. I guess mentally, all I had a lot of trouble with multitasking, I guess. So like a lot of stimulation just makes me go like, yeah, I cannot function with so many um, stimulation. I still feel like that a little bit. It's still hard for me to multitask. I need to focus on one thing, which is fine. Like, definitely know how to focus and use my brain as it's supposed to be right now. Just work for the best for me. Yeah.
Yeah. So were crowds also difficult going into crowded locations where there's a lot of people and noise?
Yeah, definitely. I remember the first time I went to a restaurant for a family dinner with like my extended family, like my cousins, aunts, and uncles, and even just people moving their chair, getting cutlery, like people to, oh my gosh, like it was just so overwhelming. Like I felt sick to the stomach. It was just so bad.
It is something that I can relate to. That's why I asked, and I know a lot of stroke survivors can. Even now, and I've been on this journey for about 10 years, even now when I go to a crowded cafe or restaurant, and the certain pitches of certain people's voices, predominantly female higher pitched voices, are really, really difficult for me to handle, to the point where I've been known to sit in a restaurant with my hands over my ears while we're there, because I just can't deal with the noise. And I can't go to those people and say to them, stop talking or leave.
Yeah.
If you've had a stroke and you're in recovery, you'll know what a scary and confusing time it can be. You're likely to have a lot of questions going through your mind. Like, how long will it take to recover? Will I actually recover? What things should I avoid in case I make matters worse? Doctors will explain things, but obviously you've never had a stroke before. You probably don't know what questions to ask. If this is you, you may be missing out on doing things that could help speed up your recovery. If you're finding yourself in that situation, stop worrying and head to recoveryafterstroke.com, where you can download a guide that will help you. It's called 7 Questions to Ask Your Doctor About Your Stroke. These 7 questions are the ones Bill wished he'd asked when he was recovering from a stroke. They'll not only help you better understand your condition, they'll help you take a more active role in your recovery. Head to the website now, recoveryafterstroke.com, and download the guide. It's free.
And I don't want to leave the restaurant that I'm at. I want to be there because that's why we went. But I have been known to shorten my stay at a particular venue or restaurant because I can't manage the noise, and it's as excruciatingly painful to be there. So I have to excuse myself and not be there.
Yeah. I definitely feel that sometimes well, since the pandemic happened, and there's not as many people, so I actually feel a bit better. Like but yeah, the noise level still, even to this day, is up to a certain amount of level I could get. I don't know, but yeah, totally. It's just really frustrating.
And before the pandemic, did you find yourself canceling on people and not going to events where you were invited to because of that reason?
Yeah, like well before that, like I just shut because I didn't tell anyone for a bit, and I just like shut down. Like I didn't go anywhere. And to be honest, my parents, well, my mom was pretty strict on what I ate. Afterwards, she's like everything like really healthy and stuff. Like I just ate a lot of home cooked meals because she wasn't sure what was happening to me. So they just want to be sure, like health wise, whatever I put into my body, like it's not like fat and greasy and whatever. Yeah.
Just wanted to take a little bit of control back and support you the best way that she could. And for her, it was through nutrition and making sure that you were A, eating, and B, probably eating healthy and all the things that mums want to make sure you're doing.
Yeah. So that was one that limited me a lot. But my friends did eventually come to the house and visit me. And to be honest, in the beginning, my mom had to tell them to leave. Like I couldn't even do it because at that point, like it was just too much. And my mom was like, "Are you tired?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then she's like telling my friends like she has to just take a break. Like it's too much. But eventually, they just kind of get it, and then they don't like they come for a short period of time when they visit me just to talk. It was just a lot, and then I eventually kind of went out. I went to one of my friend's wedding. She was moving to the States, so I didn't want to say no to that. And that was very interesting. It was a lot. It was definitely a lot, I would say. I don't think I was ready for that at that time, but I'm so happy I went because she moved. So, yeah.
Yeah. I remember being at events like weddings or full-on parties or something like that, and then needing literally the whole next day to recover and rest.
Yeah.
Is that your experience? Does it take a long time to recharge the batteries?
Yes, definitely a lot. Even before my stroke, I was more of an introvert, so I needed to recharge from just being social and going out. And then when my stroke, it was like double the time. And one thing that I feel like is hard for people to comprehend because I look normal. I look fine. They don't think that, but sometimes I just want to know that even though I look normal, I'm still dealing with some of even my like the tiredness and stuff, and I actually had to work twice as hard as a normal person just to write or to type or think of stuff or do my job. And that's one thing that sometimes could get frustrating in that sense. And even now, like I got COVID, I feel like it's taking like I feel like I have no energy, but I'm like barely there. But like it's been like almost a week and I still feel it a little bit, and I just sometimes I feel bad for taking so much time to rest. Yeah, that's one thing I still need to really work on. I feel guilty for taking the rest, even though I know that I need it. And yeah.
I recently posted about this on Instagram. I had the same issue. I'm 10 years post-stroke, but still some days are really difficult and I can't do anything. And the best thing that I need to do is lie down and just be there the entire day. And if I'm doing that, I do feel the same thing. I feel like I'm being unproductive and I could be doing more and I should be doing better. And all those crazy things enter my head. But the other part of me 100% knows that the correct thing to do is the part where you're lying down for an entire day and you're recharging your batteries. And my head
Mm-hmm.
is what does that other stuff to me. Like, it just messes with me. And I
Yeah.
try to switch it off. But it's definitely got something to do with, your upbringing, and you have to work and you have to do all these things. So I
Mm-hmm.
can't always just shake it and switch it off. I feel guilty, especially if, let's say, I was in the middle of doing things, or the day that I was unwell, I had some stuff that I needed to do because they were on the agenda and I didn't get them done. And then I'm wondering about, my God, the next day and what I'm going to have to do the next day to catch up. And it's like, just get over
Mm-hmm.
it and stop and rest for 5 minutes.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Still, to this day, I just feel, yeah, my mind is just, I feel like I'm just having an internal battle with
Yeah.
myself a lot. Yeah, it's pretty hard to shift that. I still try to, but I'm just going back and forth. Like, this is the right thing to do. This is not. This is it. This is it. Yep.
I, because, because I can, I'm going to give you permission to rest whenever you need to. And
Mm-hmm.
you can remember that I said that. So next time you feel
Okay.
that way, just remember that I said,
Yeah.
and whoever's listening and watching, you have permission to rest.
Yeah.
Permission granted. Just keep that in the back of your mind, and let that
Mm-hmm.
be the thing that you remember during those moments where
Yeah.
you're doubting
Mm-hmm.
yourself. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so how did your career end up going? Did you end up working in the field that you were studying in?
Yeah. So actually, I am working right now. I just didn't pursue my destination. I was like, no, I can't do this right now. And like even now today, like recently I have been thinking about it and I'm like, I don't think I could put myself into that much energy. It's just a lot. So, but
Mm.
I'm thankful I have a job. Like I don't have to reach for the top as long as I'm earning some income to support myself.
Mm.
And I'm actually still living with my parents. I'm thankful for that. Culturally, it's pretty like a norm for like me and like my sister to live with my parents. So I'm grateful for that. I still live with my parents at this time, so I can really just work on myself
Yeah,
and
great.
yeah. And I was very thankful with my job. Like I didn't start off right full time. Like I did a gradual. Like it was an ease to go back. I worked, like 2 days for like 5 hours, and then I gradually increased it while I was
Mm.
working with my therapist. So that was really good. I'm very thankful for that. And even when I started working, I was scared to tell people, my coworkers, colleagues, people that I
Mm.
had a stroke too. That was also interesting. And that was like a year, like, like it took, I already told my family and friends, but I still felt that same way when I had to tell new people. And it was interesting. But eventually I did. I made up the courage to just talk about it. I think there was an event about um, health and like heart and stroke. And I was like, I'm just gonna raise my hand and tell what my experience. And I did. And a lot of people actually had questions, which, yeah, I'm really glad I did share my experience with them because everyone was just really shocked.
Yeah. Does it is it good to share it from a emotional perspective? Does it help lift some kind of burden? Do you feel lighter for sharing your story? Is it better to
Yeah.
get it out than keep it in?
Yeah. I feel free. It's like, you want to be a butterfly and spread or birds. Like you feel like you just spread out your wings because even if they don't have a stroke or I'm pretty sure at least someone knows about someone who had a stroke. And
Mm.
I'm just, even just telling one person, you could spread that, stroke can happen anywhere, like anytime, no
Mm.
matter what age, like it doesn't, there's no, yeah. like, oh, it's only for elderlies and if they're high risk. No, like it happened to me. So I just wanted that to be out there, that it could happen and to anyone. Not that I wish it did, but I mean, yeah, just to be aware, that raising the awareness, it felt good. I felt like, oh wow, now people could see me. I don't have to hide, and they know my situation, and I gave them like a little bits of information about stroke.
Yeah. And you've got a legitimate reason if you're having a bad day. You've got a legitimate reason if your deficits are playing up because you're tired, and you don't have to worry about people wondering what is going on with her. You can basically tell them that I'm feeling exhausted today, and now you know the reason why, and this is what happens sometimes, but I'll be better with a little rest. Does that make it better? Because I imagine at the beginning they would have been seeing some things, some of your behavior, and thinking, what's going on with her?
Yeah, for sure. I cried at work because it was just too much one day, and at the time my manager saw it, and he completely was in shock, and he's like, just go home. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna go home. Like, I think it was enough, especially in the beginning. I was just, everything is so new. I'm learning so much information, and it was just a lot. And for me, and sometimes it gets frustrating because I just couldn't be as fast as I used to be, and I had to take my time. But now I'm in a good place where everyone understands that I know my own limits, and so that is good. But in the beginning, it was just trial and error. A lot of emotions were coming out at work that I did not want to show at work, but it did happen. So
I remember working for 3 years between 2016 and 2019 in an office, again, for the same reasons. I couldn't participate in life as normal because I was so unwell. And a friend of mine gave me a job in an organization where he was the manager that I would be reporting to. So it was very useful because he completely knew my situation, but the people around us didn't know my situation. And they often questioned my level of contribution and my output because it wasn't as high as other people, and I wasn't contributing to the workload the way that they were. And it was quite interesting to be seen as somebody who's not pulling his weight, because I always thought that I did. And the reason I wasn't pulling my weight is because I was not capable of doing more than I was doing. For example, we had 2 monitors at our desk, and those monitors would just fry my brain. It is, within a couple of hours of being at work, I wouldn't be able to operate anymore, and I'd have to get up and go for a walk for half an hour and then come back and try and somehow get through the rest of the day. And a lot of the stuff that we worked on was spreadsheets all day, every day. A whole bunch of spreadsheets that just used to make life really difficult, because I had to think a lot and use my brain way more because of the fact that it was injured, and the effort was greater. And numbers and spreadsheet, they're not my favorite thing anyway, and now they were twice as hard. And it was extremely difficult. And I remember I finally resigned after putting up with it for 3 years, when my friend, who's my boss, came to me and said, this is your level of expertise with the spreadsheet. We're going to take it to the next level now, because we're going to change a few things around, and we need to increase everybody's skills around these spreadsheets, etc. And that meeting ended. The whole team was in there. That meeting ended. There was probably about 15 people in there. And when they left, I waited for everyone to leave the room, and I immediately resigned on the spot. And he said to me, relax, what just happened? What was so bad? I said to him, nothing. I just am not going to be able to fulfill the requirements that you have of your team members. And I don't want to make you look bad, and I don't want to be bringing the team down or anything like that. There's no way I can do this role. And that's how I end up leaving. I couldn't do it to him, and I couldn't do it for myself. And I was just going to be filling space there and actually not being productive enough. And maybe I was going to be causing him a problem, because I know that he wouldn't have wanted to get rid of me and sack me because he knew my situation. And he was very lenient and he was very caring, but I couldn't do that to him. That's how challenging it was for me.
Definitely. I feel a lot like that. Like I'm always like thinking about my job and like what I'm supposed to do. Like even to this day, I'm still trying to find myself still. But it's a growing part of me. Like I'm still trying to figure out what I could do, what I do best, and what doesn't overtake my energy.
Yeah.
And I'm still struggling with that to this day too. I can't just, but I'm not to the point where like I'm just going to resign. But yeah, like I still could do a bit of I could do my job, but yeah, I'm still taking the time to figure out myself. So yeah.
You need time. Absolutely. I mean, at 2016, I was only 2 years out of brain surgery. So
yeah,
it hadn't been a long time. Things were still healing and recovering. And by 2019, I was still healing and recovering. I wasn't anywhere near maybe my old self. I don't know if I wasn't feeling like my old self still. And I think things started to work for me, started to feel better for me, sort of from about 2020 onwards. And then from there, I still have noticed, gradual improvements in everything that I do, in my memory, my ability to look at monitors, in my ability to focus for longer periods of time. It has gradually got better and better and better.
Okay.
But there was always those little backward steps, those drops where I needed to reassess and stop and settle down and do less and recover. So, it might seem weird for somebody if they've just started their stroke journey or their recovery. If I say that 5 years down the road, you're still way early on in your recovery. But
yeah, that's good to know.
I think you're a testament to that, and so am I. And now I'm another 5 years ahead of you, and it's like it gets better even after that.
Yeah, that's good. Like, I don't know about you. I felt like even though physically, like I'm a lot better, mentally, it's a lot harder to work on, like to recover than physical. Like for myself, like the physical, I had so many people to work on and exercises. My mental, like I feel like I'm still being challenged each day with different things that I don't know about. Like certain things I do, I don't know. Like I was like, oh, okay, this is challenging for me. Oh, this is okay for me. Like just stuff that I don't know, my brain does that. I was like, oh, okay, I never used before.
Yeah. And what's interesting is there isn't a lot you can do to rehabilitate your mind when you're feeling like this. This is the weird part, other than rest and sleep. There's not that much more that you can do for the body. We can go to all sorts of physical therapy. We can go to the gym. We can run. We can bike ride. We can do all these things. We can play sports. Whether you're able-bodied or not, you can still participate in sports. But for the brain, there's not that many people coming to you and going, do this, let's exercise it like this, or it's not that many people got ideas about that. I don't have any, and there's certainly not a lot of experts that come that there is some ideas about supporting the brain through nutrition and meditation and sleeping more, and even exercise does help. But yeah, it seems like we're lacking some tools and resources to heal the brain. I think I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I can come up with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally agree.
So you rest more, therefore do you sleep more? Have you improved or changed your sleeping habits, or have they altered on their own as a result of the stroke?
I definitely, well, before I was like, sleep is not important. I could pull like all-nighters, go out and stuff, and I definitely
Mm,
take it more seriously. Definitely have a routine, but after my stroke, I could sleep for days and days. Like I just needed it. But now I have a very structured, like 7 to 8 hours of sleep. It's what I really, to be honest, like I really probably like 8 hours is like really good, but some days, like most majority of days, I get between 7 to 8 hours. And if I'm really tired, then like say more. I used to be so against naps. I don't know why. It's just like I feel like I wasted my day. But no, like I do enjoy, like if I'm really tired, I will take a nap. Yeah.
You know, in a lot of European countries, napping is part of almost their religion. They do
Mhm.
it in the middle of the day, no
Yeah.
matter what. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was just like, oh, okay, well, other parts of the country, yeah, they do that. But yeah, in my mind, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm wasting half my day like taking a nap. Like, and like I just didn't want that. Or like, oh, if I nap now, I'm not going to sleep at night. But
Yeah.
I've been okay. Yeah, I've been okay. I just really am trying to, even to this day, be aware of my body, like learn to listen to my body,
Mm, mm,
because I tend to just go over that a lot. Like I just burn out. I burn out really quickly, and I realize I need to stop that, or else I'm just going backwards a lot and taking more breaks than I need to. If I
mm.
know ahead of time, I could prevent it, like by just resting or taking breaks. So
Yeah.
that's one thing I'm still working on, to acknowledge my body. If I'm really tired, or even just a little tired, maybe it's time for me to rest.
Yeah.
Hmm.
When I think about the location you live in Canada, I always
Hmm.
shudder with the thought that you guys have a really uh, cold, snowy winter, and I can't deal with
Yeah,
the cold. I don't like
it's
it.
gonna happen soon. Yeah.
Yeah, I never enjoy it. Uh, and the cold, even where I live in Melbourne, Australia,
Hmm.
we we have a cold winter. We don't have a lot of snow in the city where I live, but uh, I don't like it at all. I don't enjoy it at all. So I'm wondering about your experience with weather and how much, if any, change that you've experienced with the cold or the heat. Is that different for you these days?
Um, s- it's more like I'm very scared to walk outside. Like I'm
Uh,
scared of falling.
uh-huh.
Now like I'm better because I have more confidence. I But after my stroke, yeah, I was really, because once it gets really cold and snowy, there's also like hail and like ice, like black ice on the ground. You can't see it. It's just
Mm,
very, in the wintertime, sometimes it gets very dangerous, even just for normal people to walk, like
mm,
not just me. And that's scary. And it does, the cold and the heat doesn't really affect me, maybe because I've lived in Canada all my life. I was born here, so I'm used to half the year being really cold, and well, more than half the year. I feel like majority of the year it's really cold, and like 3 months of summer. And because I'm home, um we have heat, so like we have to have heat, or else like I'll just freeze everything in our pipes. But I feel like sleep at home, one thing I did was more of a transition, as I used to like doing a lot of activities, so like skating, skiing, and all this stuff, and I couldn't do those things anymore. Like last year I did try, and it was really tough. It was scary to like to balance on just two blades, or
mm,
it was just different. And learning to cope with that, just learning that there's a lot of stuff that like it's hard for me to do. So that's one thing. But yeah, temperature wise, I feel okay. I'm always dressed warm enough to be outside, and in the summer when it's hot, it's fine. I also like the heat, but I like both.
Yeah. I never liked the cold. I can't still deal with the cold. And it doesn't matter how much clothes you put on. I never feel cold. I never feel warm, you know?
Okay.
And
Yeah.
even now with my left side is colder than my right side as a result of my stroke and the deficits that I deal with. So when I didn't enjoy the cold to begin with, now half of my body experiences the cold even more dramatically. And it's kind of like,
Yeah.
that's the worst thing that can happen to you. I need to move
Yeah.
1,000 kilometers north and go closer to where it's warmer, you know, and stay there and be there all the time because it gets less cold in the north of Australia than it does where we live. But it's great that you can still deal with it and it's not an issue. For you, I know a lot of people get impacted by the heat predominantly because it seems to drain their energy more, and perhaps they can't regulate their body temperature. I'm not sure why, but stroke seems to cause that challenge.
Yeah, I guess heat-wise is not that hot compared to other countries where I live, like in Canada. Like, well, sometimes we get like high 30s, but that's like the max, I think. Yeah, like it doesn't get too unbearable. So, and because like maybe because I'm always inside, I don't really feel different. Like I don't really go out that much, so I don't feel that. But then it just reminded me that I actually took a trip with my family to Asia. We went to Thailand, and that kind of heat, I definitely felt um draining. I was just completely exhausted. And on top of the heat, it was just a lot of people. Like it was just everything all at once for me. It was a lot. Like I just like wanted to stay in my hotel sometimes. But yeah, I still managed to do a bit of things, but I didn't realize that part.
It's hot and humid in Thailand, isn't it?
Yeah, very, very hot. And it's just a lot of people because in Canada, everything is so spread out. We have so much space. Like, I'm just used to that kind of. And then when you go to Thailand, when it's super hot and humid, and then there's so much people, I was just like, oh, this is a lot. But it was fun. It was interesting too to see how I managed traveling since it was like my first big trip after my stroke with my family.
Yeah, we did a really big trip to the United States after my stroke. It takes 26, 27 hours to get there.
Wow, that's very long.
Yeah, it's intense, right? And then by the time you get there, you haven't slept properly and the rest of it. And for me, we got to New York and my wife wanted to see all of New York immediately. And I want to sleep immediately. I don't want to go anywhere. That was the difference in the way that we felt. And I was afraid of that trip because I didn't know whether I was going to have another stroke, or I didn't know anything about the hospital system out there. I took the most expensive travel insurance policy. Were you nervous about doing the trip, and are you glad you did it anyway?
Yeah, I was so nervous. I was like, what about a stroke? Like you said too, I bought like travel insurance, like the most expensive, everything covered, because a lot don't cover pre-existing conditions, and the stroke was the pre-existing condition now. And like, you hear stories of long flights with blood clots, and I was like, oh no, like I had a blood clot, and that's why a big stroke happened. And like, I bought compression socks. I was very nervous, and even though mine was like not 20 something hours of flight to Asia, I was like 13-ish because I went to Taiwan first, and it was so long. I remember getting up a lot just to walk around because I was so nervous about my legs. It was interesting. I'm glad I did it, but I also felt really different in the beginning. Once I got there, I was super tired. My
Mm.
body felt different. Like I felt tingly, and that freaked me out. Like I
Mm.
don't know, it's just the air, like or the heat, because I'm not used to that much heat compared
Mm.
to Canada since we went in November, which is pretty like it's cold here. Like not that cold yet, but still cold compared to like it was just a big drastic change within
Mm.
13 hours, maybe. And my body just felt very tingly, and I was just really worried that I'm gonna be numb or I'm gonna have a stroke. And
Mm.
I'm in a country where like I don't like you said, I don't know the healthcare system in Asia and like how it is like, and I was very nervous, but now that I think about it, I'm back here and it's been a while. I'm very happy I did go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have to get permission from your medical team to fly or to travel? Did you do that or not?
No, because I waited a while. In the beginning, I couldn't fly, but I didn't fly anywhere anyways. I went, so after that, like they were okay. I did speak to my family practitioner about it and just ensure that I have everything ready, like medication
Mm.
and stuff and how to prepare for it because I was really worried. And that's about it. And they're like, just, the impression sucks because I'm still on blood thinners.
Uh-huh.
So I start to take that every day and I just continue to do that and just like make sure that you get up a lot. And I just registered my name to the government of Canada just to make sure like if anything does happen. And like I just did all the things that I was supposed to do and then
Yeah.
yeah, they
All the
were okay.
precautions, all the precautions. It
Yeah.
sounds like you were
Hmm.
well planned for it, and that's the thing we did as well. We just planned everything as much as we could to control some of those things that previously maybe I never would have considered or never would have thought about.
Mm.
We did we did a little bit of overthinking about it, and we had
Hmm.
a bit of time to plan, and in the end, it was worth it. But I was really unsure if I should go. I really didn't engage with my wife at the beginning about the trip, and I wasn't
Yeah.
excited. She was wondering why I wasn't excited. But when we got there, I really enjoyed myself. It was um, New York in winter, so it wasn't fun
Mm.
because it was cold,
Yeah.
but I went
Hmm.
anyway. But it was just after they had a hurricane back then, Hurricane Sandy, and the weather
Hmm.
was very settled after that had happened.
Hmm.
Um, and although it was cold, the sun was out. So if we were walking in the sun with
Hmm.
a few layers on, it was quite comfortable. You could really easily get
Hmm.
around. Um,
Hmm.
so so while I was there, I really enjoyed myself. But trying to imagine myself there was really, really difficult. And I think what I'm trying to say to people listening and watching is definitely, if you're thinking about traveling, if you get the go ahead from your medical team and you put a little bit of time
Hmm.
into the planning of it and you don't overthink too far into the future and you get there,
Hmm.
you might actually have a great experience. And that's really what I'm doing is trying to
Yeah.
encourage people to do that.
Yeah. I definitely do. Like I love to travel. I like to see different cultures, visit different countries. So
Mm.
I was somewhat devastated when they didn't let me travel in the beginning, but that's totally understandable. And like you said, overthinking did get to me. I was like excited for a day, then overthinking, and I just kept going back and forth because I really wanted to travel. But yeah, definitely like speak to medical professionals first. But yeah, it's really worth it, I find, to go to different countries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also did the whole thing that you were talking about earlier, which was I might not be around next year. Why don't I just go this year and enjoy myself
Mhm.
because I don't know what's going to happen next
Yeah.
year.
Hmm.
Definitely did that. That was kind of
Yeah.
what got me over the line that I better do it now. If I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it. And we
Hmm.
shouldn't wait
Hmm.
any longer. You know, we
Yeah.
waited until we were married for a good 10 or 15 years before we traveled anywhere with our family because it wasn't easy, finances and the rest of it. And then my wife was like, if we don't go now, when are we going to go? We might not be healthy and well in the future. So let's go now while we can enjoy it.
Definitely. I think of it a lot. If I still somewhat have the energy, I should go now because later on I probably won't have as much energy as I could. And yeah, so that's one thing. Yeah, I a lot of things that I'm scared to do. Like I really want to do. I always have to remind myself, like, if I don't do it now, like, yeah, the whole like, I don't know when I could do it. So that's one good thing about this show, that mindset of like, it really challenged me to overcome a lot of my fears, which is really good because, or else I'll just be, hiding and living in a bubble and not experiencing everything the world has to offer.
Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. While we're kind of coming to the end of the interview, I want to ask you one last question, and it's about the fact that you rescheduled a couple of times to get to this particular time, which is pretty cool. People do that all the time, and it's no problem. But when you wrote me a note as to why you were rescheduling, you said that you're really looking forward to this interview. And I'm curious to know about what was it about being on a podcast or I don't know, this podcast or any podcast that you look forward to. What is it about? What did you want to achieve by coming on here?
So there's a lot of things, like talking to you, also a stroke survivor. I felt like in the beginning of my stroke journey, I didn't have anyone to talk to. I didn't feel like it was relatable. Like I couldn't relate. I felt like I didn't belong to anything. I felt so alone. And being able to talk to someone who also been through a stroke, even though strokes, there's so many different kinds of stroke and where it's affected, but still being part of something and just talking, like I really wanted to do that. And it also challenged me because speaking to someone from across the world, like Australia, I'm from Canada, is like, for me, like I'm not, even before, like I'm not, I'm shy, I'm soft-spoken, and I like to challenge myself to do this. And I want to, do this for myself and for everybody and share my experience too. And the whole kind of like coming out, like spreading my wings, like talking about my stroke to you and everyone who's listening, like it feels great. And that's why I was really looking forward to it. And I seen your Instagram and everything. And it just felt like, I really wanted to be a guest.
Beautiful. That is the perfect reason. And any other reason that somebody might have why they want to be on my podcast, that's a perfect reason as well. That's exactly why I do the podcast. I do it for exactly that reason. I didn't know any stroke survivors. I didn't feel like I belonged. I didn't feel like anyone understood me. And I still feel that now because the majority of the people I know, thank God, haven't had a stroke. And that's perfectly fine. But that means that I need to talk about it often. I need to talk about it with people who understand me, who get me. And I need to do something positive with this terrible situation that I found myself in, So you're actually doing me a very big service by coming on here.
Thank you.
I really, truly appreciate the fact that you did that. And I hope that you'll feel good about the fact that there is people that are watching and listening now who are going to contact me and let me know that they really enjoyed listening to your episode. They'll say to me that I related a lot to the stuff that Anita shared and that they feel less alone and they feel more understood as a result of the fact that you decided to come on the podcast. So thank you very much for being on here.
Well, thank you for having me too. This was really great.
Now, thanks for joining us on today's episode. If you're a stroke survivor with a story to share about your experience, come and join me on the show. The interviews are not scripted. You do not have to plan for them. All you need to do to qualify is be a stroke survivor or care for someone who is a stroke survivor, or you are also one of the fabulous people that help other people who are stroke survivors. Go to recoveryafterstroke.com/contact, fill out the contact form, and as soon as I receive your request, I will respond with more details on how you can choose a time that works for you and me to meet over Zoom. Thanks again for being here and listening. I really appreciate you. See you on the next episode.
Importantly, we present many podcasts designed to give you an insight and understanding into the experiences of other individuals. Opinions and treatment protocols discussed during any podcast are the individual's own experience, and we do not necessarily share the same opinion, nor do we recommend any treatment protocol discussed. All content on this website and any linked blog, podcast, or video material controlled this website or content is created and produced for informational purposes only and is largely based on the personal experience of Bill Gassiamas. The content is intended to complement your medical treatment and support healing. It is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice and should not be relied on as health advice. The information is general and may not be suitable for your personal injuries, circumstances, or health objectives. Do not use our content as a standalone resource to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease for therapeutic purposes or as a substitute for the advice of a health professional. Never delay seeking advice or disregard the advice of a medical professional, your doctor, or your rehabilitation program based on our content. If you have any questions or concerns about your health or medical condition, please seek guidance from a doctor or other medical professional. If you are experiencing a health emergency or think you might be, call 000 if in Australia, or your local emergency number immediately for emergency assistance, or go to the nearest hospital emergency department. Medical information changes constantly. While we aim to provide current, quality information in our content, we do not provide any guarantees and assume no legal liability or responsibility for the accuracy, currency, or completeness of the content. If you choose to rely on any information within our content, you do so solely at your own risk. We are careful with links we provide. However, third-party links from our website are followed at your own risk, and we are not responsible for any information you find there.